This is the Mint live on ZTN Prime, your sneak peek into the world of business, finance, and economies. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Let's get started. Coming up, Ariston Holdings has flipped the switch and have gone all solar now. The agricultural group has completed its migration to 100% solar energy, powering operations across its tea, macadamia, and banana divisions. ZTN Prime's Nyasha Chawatama toured Ariston Southdown Estate in Chipinge. In its quest to promote economic development in Zimbabwe's second largest city, the Bulawayo City Council (BCC) will next month take its investment campaign to Harare, targeting potential investors in the diaspora and across the country. Dubbed Kumbulekaya, slated for July 30, it aims to bring together Bulawayo entrepreneurs who have relocated from Bulawayo. The Gauteng provincial government is involved in discussions with National Treasury about the payment terms of its 16 billion rand e-toll debt. A newly inaugurated China-backed cocoa processing industrial complex in Côte d'Ivoire is helping to upgrade the industry in the world's largest producer of cocoa as the key chocolate ingredient. Absa Mauritius plans to nearly quadruple funding for green projects by 2030 to support the island nation's emissions reduction goals and efforts to mitigate climate change. A soup kitchen in Los Angeles, the United States, has seen growing demands for free meals as American families are struggling to afford adequate food. Shiploads of Minis, Aston Martins and Range Rovers will set sail for the US today as the UK-US trade deal kicks in, but British farmers say they have been used as collateral to save the car industry. And the gold price recovered some lost ground during early European trading hours on Monday. Rising bets that the US Federal Reserve will cut rates more times this year and possibly sooner than previously expected might undermine the greenback and support the US dollar denominated commodity price. Of course, we take a look at these stories and need to hear the Mint. The Mint will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Mint, broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now we take a look at our stories in detail. Now, Ariston Holdings Limited has flipped the switch and has gone all solar now. The agricultural group has completed its migration to 100% solar energy, powering operations across its tea, macadamia, and banana divisions. ZTN Prime's Nyasha Chawatama toured Ariston's Southdown Estate in Chipinge. In the heart at Ariston Holdings Limited's Southdown Estate, the sun is now more than a climate factor. It's the new engine for production. The estate, a major hub for tea, macadamia, and banana farming, has successfully transitioned its factories to 100% solar energy, marking a significant milestone in Zimbabwe's shift to renewable energy in agriculture.
This system is already grid-tied, so everything that we don't use here at Southdown, we send it to the grid to try and mitigate the challenges of load shedding. We are currently self-sustaining in terms of energy. The factory can run off-grid.
The group's largest investment to date, a fully integrated solar plant installed in July 2023, now powers key operations. In the face of persistent power cuts nationwide, this strategic energy shift has yielded notable financial savings while ensuring operational consistency.
Inverters in there, and we also have got bypass cabinets that detects which source of energy to use on a daily basis, with our first option being solar, because we've already bought this power. Then we have got an option to use the grid should the weather remain overcast.
But it's not just about energy that's evolving at Ariston. Ariston is now employing over 1,600 people at peak season, predominantly from Chipinge, driving transformation in Manicaland province through job creation. Meanwhile, Ariston products are making headway into new regional markets.
value chain partners we are working with in Zimbabwe are already active in Zambia, and we've got a good relationship with them in Zimbabwe, and we can piggyback on that relationship to expand into the Zambian market. Then after Zambia, we'll look at markets like South Africa. Why South Africa? South Africa, when you look at South Africa as compared to Zimbabwe, South Africa is midway between a first world country.
Ariston's pivot to solar comes at a time when climate resilience is critical for Zimbabwean agriculture. With diversified production including avocados, maize and soya, and a renewed focus on water conservation, the company is redefining smart farming. In a dynamic agricultural economy, Ariston Holdings is proving that the future is green, digital, and solar-powered. Thank you, Nyasha Chawatama, who of course toured their Ariston estate, particularly in the Chipinge area. And of course, we look forward to hearing more in terms of some of the progress that's taking place where some of their macadamia plants are concerned, as well as the update with regards to the progress where their banana operations are concerned. Elsewhere, in its quest to promote economic development in Zimbabwe's second largest city, the Bulawayo City Council BCC will next month take its investment campaign to Harare, targeting potential investors in the diaspora and across the country. Dubbed Kumbulekaya, which means Remember Back Home, investment conference slated for July 30 aims to bring together Bulawayo entrepreneurs who have relocated to Harare, along with new potential investors, policymakers, and other key stakeholders. Bulawayo, historically the country's industrial hub, has over the years faced several economic challenges, leading to a migration of talent and capital to Harare and other parts of the country. In a concept note, BCC said the conference sought to reconnect business people from Bulawayo, now based in Harare, with their roots, explore investment opportunities, and address challenges that hinder economic growth in Bulawayo. This conference aims to be a platform for networking, knowledge exchange, and promoting investment opportunities in key sectors that could revitalize Bulawayo's economy. The decision to hold the conference in Harare is a strategic one, as it provides an ideal opportunity to reconnect with the substantial community of Bulawayo-born professionals and entrepreneurs who now reside and work in the capital, reads the particular concept note. The city is also exploring potential virtual components to include a broader global audience, making it accessible to those unable to attend in person. Among other objectives, the conference is meant to showcase sectors such as manufacturing, technology, tourism, agriculture, and other potential investment avenues in Bulawayo. Further, the Indaba also seeks to provide a platform for sharing knowledge on business trends, challenges, and opportunities specific to Bulawayo's market, with a focus on successful case studies. The event will also provide a platform to engage policymakers and city officials to discuss issues affecting businesses and the overall economic climate in Bulawayo, and to advocate for policies that support local businesses. Now, promoting investments in Bulawayo will strengthen economic dynamism in the city, attracting external investors while incentivizing local entrepreneurs to innovate. Now, time to take a breather. After the break, the Gauteng provincial government is involved in discussions with the National Treasury about the payment terms of a 16 billion rand e-toll debt. The Minto Bradback, don't go anywhere.
Harare, tune into the beat.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, your source for news, business, sports, fashion, and more.
Experience the pulse of Harare's culture and lifestyle.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, Harare's top radio station.
Join the conversation with Zimbabwe's top personalities.
Subscribe now for fresh and infotainment content daily.
Capital 100.4 FM, Harare's heartbeat.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoiled.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
The guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
Captain Wally J is about to take you to boot camp.
It's the riveting science and tech show that keeps you up to date with the hottest gizmos on the block and revealing the illustrious and innovative visionaries in Zimbabwe. So much to see, you'll keep swiping.
This cherry red beauty is the Dairy Auto M7 mini electric car.
We've designed our brute force incubator board.
Look at what we've got here.
Solar powered scarecrow was part of the project that I was supposed to complete.
Catch Swipe every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294. Get the picture? Dental checkups, experiments, games.
The mixture is making bubbles and the bubbles have changed color. Our balloon has been filled by carbon dioxide.
We have it all right here on Happy Sprouts. Catch us exclusively on ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294.
You're watching The Mint as we come to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now, the Gauteng provincial government is involved in discussions with the National Treasury about the payment terms of a 16 billion rand e-toll debt. However, Gauteng MEC of Finance and Economic Development, Lebogang Maile, stressed on Sunday that the province is committed to sticking to the current memorandum of agreement, arrangements to pay the province's 30% share of the e-toll debt amounting to 13 billion rand plus interest of around 3.3 billion rand, as it doesn't as yet have an agreement with Minister of Finance Ino Gondogwana about any changes to the terms of the memorandum of agreement. Maile said the government is having discussions with Treasury on the payment terms to alleviate financial pressure on the province and to give them some additional resources that they can use immediately to deal with immediate social challenges. In terms of the MOA between the SA National Roads Agency Central and National Department of Transport, Treasury and the government announced by Gondogwana during his 2022 medium-term budget policy statement, Gauteng's e-toll debt contribution would be made in 5 equal annual installments at government's 5-year interest rate. In addition to the settlement of this debt, the government also made a commitment to contribute a total of 4.1 billion rand toward the backlog maintenance on the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. Maile said the province will on June 30, 2025 honor its obligation by paying the second installment of its 30% portion of the e-toll historic debt. He added that the government made the first installment amounting to 3.8 billion rand on 30 September 2024, which comprised 3.2 billion rand of historical debt and the GFIP maintenance backlog of around 546 million rand. Now we move on to a mouth-watering development. A newly inaugurated China-backed cocoa processing industrial complex in Côte d'Ivoire is helping to upgrade the industry in the world's largest producer of cocoa as the key chocolate ingredient. The country, located on the coast of Western Africa, has lost out over the years in its inability to process the beans locally, instead shipping them to overseas facilities which have the ability to grow their value. value. The government is now trying to reverse the trend of exporting raw materials and shift to processing them domestically in order to create jobs, develop industry, and diversify exports. Cote d'Ivoire inaugurated the new cocoa processing industrial complex in its capital city, Abidjan, on Thursday. Built on a 21-hectare site in the PK24 industrial block in northern Abidjan, the Trancao project is a product of cooperation between China Light Industry Nanning Design Engineering Company Limited, the CNDC, and the Cote d'Ivoire Coffee Cocoa Council, with a total investment of 130 billion CFA francs, approximately $231 million. At the handover ceremony, Kobinan Kouassi Abojumani, Minister of State and Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of Cote d'Ivoire, said that the construction of this industrial complex signifies the country's considerable efforts to become the world's leading cocoa processor. The ultimate goal is to further this transformation to produce finished cocoa products such as chocolate, beverages, and cosmetics that meet international standards and suit the tastes of local populations, said the minister. The country's cocoa producers, who have struggled in recent times with climate change and other challenges, said they believe the new plant can lead to significant growth in the cocoa industry at home. Gobo Inganse, a cocoa producer from Duki, Western Cote d'Ivoire, had this to say.
We, the producers, are really happy, and we thank China for sending its engineers here to build this industrial jewel. This will now encourage us to work more because Cote d'Ivoire will not go back.
Meanwhile, the plant is expected to provide more jobs and improve the skill set of many locals within a few years by the introduction of more processing plants in the country and technical know-how from Chinese experts. Wen Shangwen, an employee of China Light Industry Nanning Design Engineering, said during the peak phase of construction, there have roughly 1,100 people working there.
During the peak phase of constructions, we have roughly 1,100 people working here, and the ratio of local people and Chinese people or foreign worker is roughly 7-3. In general speaking, our relationship with the local people has been always good, and we are expecting to transfer all the knowledge they have. Obviously, they have learned from us, and also we learn from them, to our next project.
Well, as I said, a mouth-watering development there taking place in Ivory Coast. Now, it will be interesting to note that Ivory Coast and Ghana contribute over 70% of the global cocoa ingredient, of course, that's used in chocolate manufacture. However, where the chocolate value chain is concerned, they only receive just 5% of the value. So it remains to be seen if this very factory will translate to increased value for Ivory Coast. And of course, we await a similar development in the Republic of Ghana. Now, APSA Mauritius plans to nearly quadruple funding for green projects by 2030 to support the island nation's emissions reduction goals and efforts to mitigate climate change. The lender, a unit of South Africa's third largest bank by assets, APSA Group intends to increase green loans to 30 billion rupees, the equivalent of $670 million from 8 billion rupees at the end of last year. Mauritius has set ambitious target to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 to curb the effects of global warming. Although the islands account for just 0.01% of global emissions, it has faced rising incidences of flooding, drought, and coral bleaching, threatening both marine life and its vital tourism industry. About 16% of their book in the corporate investment space is with the hospitality sector and resorts that are directly impacted by beach erosion, coral bleaching, and extreme weather. The government's plan, which will require an estimated $6.5 billion in funding and Mauritius' stature as an international financing center, have fueled a boom in green financing. Banks' exposure to sustainable projects more than double in 2 years to 10.2 billion rupees by June 2024, and loan applications for green projects have surged by 80% annually, according to the Bank of Mauritius. APSA's own allocation for such projects climbed to 8 billion rupees by the end of 2024 from 4.1 billion rupees a year earlier, and it has increased the number of people focused on sustainability to 5 from 1. Time to take another breather. After the break, a soup kitchen in Los Angeles, the United States, has seen growing demands for free meals as American families are struggling to afford adequate food. Of course, we take a look at these stories here on The Mint. The Mint will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
They call me Racer X, or in this case, Racer J.
Put your seatbelt on.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting, and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play.
The one story where you can't get out of your head. Wakatarisa munhu so Erika, like where you're sitting. Ndozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako yo Afro chakuti ndo music manje yemuZimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so Shona kana kuti Chindevere kana mumwe mutauri muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe. Ndiwo rupawo rwako. Ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erika Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
Learning has gone up, and away on the ZTN Prime Kids Block as we blast off into the world of science, language, mathematics, and many more.
There's a living dinosaur in the woods.
Get the crew together. Let's have an after-school homework party.
Friends would think so too. Definitely. It would be nice if everyone could enjoy them. Aliens.
Unicorns. I wonder what the unicorns would wear.
Remember, learning is fun when you're tuned into ZTN Prime.
Boy Robo to the rescue!
The ZTN Prime Kids Block. Catch it Monday to Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. on DSTV channel 294. Get the picture?
Welcome back to the Mint. We're broadcasting to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. Now, a soup kitchen in Los Angeles, the United States, has seen growing demand for free meals as American families are struggling to afford adequate food. Every morning, dozens of people line up as early as 8 a.m. to get a free hot meal as Bread and Roses, a soup kitchen run by St. Joseph Center in Los Angeles. The majority of the clients are unemployed and homeless, and their numbers have grown in recent years. James Cunningham, head chef of Bread and Roses, said the cost of living is just crushing people right now.
Honestly, the cost of living is just crushing people right now. Even folks with jobs can't afford rent and food at the same time, and with a lot of the support programs getting cut, more people are slipping through the cracks. Bread and Roses is one of the only spots left where you can come in, sit down, eat a real meal, not be judged, and that is what makes a difference.
Food insecurity is on the rise in the United States. A report by the Department of Agriculture shows a steady increase in the number of American families struggling to provide enough food because of inflation and the rollback of COVID-19 pandemic relief efforts. In 2023, around 13.5% of households were food insecure, said the USDA report, which was about 18 million families, putting more strain on the country's largest hunger relief network, the food banks. Experts say the expiration of the pandemic-era programs, along with stagnant wages and the rising costs of living, have played a significant part. In addition, the Trump administration has cut about $1 billion in federal funding for hunger relief programs and $500 million in expected food deliveries. This has left food banks scrambling for resources. With government assistance dwindling, places like soup kitchens and food banks are becoming the last safety net for vulnerable individuals and families facing food insecurity in the United States of America. Meanwhile, shiploads of Minis, Aston Martins and Range Rovers will set sail for the U.S. today as the UK-US trade deal kicks in, but British farmers say they have been used as collateral to save the car industry. Auto shipments across the Atlantic were down more than half in May after Donald Trump's imposition of a 25% tariff on April 3 on top of an existing 2.5% levy. However, as one of course, past midnight time Monday 5 a.m. in the UK, that has been reduced to 10% for cars, and UK manufacturers expect pent-up demand to be unleashed. Aston Martin's chief executive Adrian Hallmark said the luxury car maker had stopped shipping between April and June, something he said had been non-catastrophic but slightly uncomfortable. The outline of the trade deal was agreed between Trump and Keir Starmer in early May, the first such bilateral pact to mitigate the president's import taxes. However, delays in agreeing the fine print meant the high tariff had continued to apply, pushing the cost of British cars up more than a quarter for US importers. Hallmark told the British Car Industry Conference last week that he was planning to invoice 3 months' worth of sales in a 24-hour period, with stocks in the US down by 50% due to the pause. Aston Martin exports 90% of its cars, but its customers are wealthy and were willing to wait. The demand has been strong and will be in good shape when we start to invoice cars like fury on Monday next week, he said. On the eve of the trade deal coming into force, the business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, received reassurances from the sports car maker Lotus that it had no plans to close its UK factory in Hethel, Norfolk. A Department for Business and Trade spokesperson said Reynolds met Lotus and its owner Geely on Sunday to clarify the company's situation and was reassured by management that they are committed to their UK operations and have no plans to close their Hethel plant. The car industry welcomed the US-UK trade deal when it was struck, with it preventing job losses at JLR, the maker of the Jaguar and Land Rover brands. Now, Land Rovers are particularly popular in the US. However, the lower 10% duty only applies to a quarter of 100,000 cars a year, slightly below last year's export numbers. And the gold price recovers some lost ground during early European trading hours today. Rising bets that the US Federal Reserve will cut rates more times this year and possibly sooner than previously expected might undermine the greenback and support the US dollar-denominated commodity price, as a weaker US dollar makes gold cheaper for foreign buyers. Of course, we explore this in Newsplus. That's it on the Mint. I'm Ibe Nabunda. Don't go anywhere. That's a wrap.